here's Brody Brazil.
So here we are feeling this pretty somber realization that it's the end for the Arizona Coyotes. It's the end for now, we know that for sure. Is it the end for just a while? Is it the end forever? None of that is certain. None of that is guaranteed. This is such a rare spot to be in for a region and a professional sports franchise. They're essentially going inactive. They're going dormant. You don't even really know what right words to put to this because, again, it hardly ever happens like this. So the purpose of this video, though, is to identify some things I absolutely hope happen for Arizona, for the Phoenix metro area, and for the Valley to stay active as a hockey community so that when the opportunity is right, they'll be ready to jump right back into this. Again, just because the franchise is going quiet and dark and gone doesn't mean that the community as a hockey market has to kind of follow suit there. It's weird. This is unique, but hang with me here. Number one, youth hockey absolutely has to be continued, but it also has to be, I think, encouraged to a new, even higher level. The Scottsdale Ice Den has always been a big thing, but this is so important to keep youth hockey rolling in a non-traditional hockey market, to make sure that kids keep signing up, they keep playing, they don't drop out, they don't get too discouraged by the fact that the NHL team is leaving the market. They've already started to build something strong with hockey in Arizona. And let me use the example of Austin Matthews in just a second. If you don't think that that region can produce an NHL player, let me produce one of the superstars of the league to you in just 1 second. But you can't let the youth hockey portion slip. If you let this slide, you are ruining the possibility of this being a strong fan base 5, 10, 20 years down the road. You really need to make sure that you're still planting the seeds of hockey in the state of Arizona, even if you don't have the NHL team anymore. A lot of times, and I've witnessed this firsthand, it takes an NHL team coming to the market to excite an area, a region, a non-traditional region for hockey about playing the sport. In San Jose, before the Sharks were ever here in the Bay Area, there might have been a total of like 3 sheets of ice. The entire region before they got here. Now, 30 plus years later, there's ice facilities in multiple spots around the Bay Area, and there still could be more, and they still are building out more. But the whole point here is that it takes an NHL team to start this trend. Fortunately, in Arizona, that's already underway. They need to make sure that that continues so that interest and appreciation of hockey can still exist. And when eventually the time is right to bring a team back, they'll have a built-in fan base that's even better and stronger than ever. Going back to Austin Matthews, and this is a quote from Shane Doan. So like 2 Arizona hockey legends being mentioned here in the same breath. But Shane Doan said this about Austin Matthews via The Athletic. Austin is the flag that everyone in Arizona holds their hat on and says, someone not only made it and played here and grew up and always comes back here, but also excelled. That gave everyone hope. So just looking at an Austin Matthews, and no, I understand, not every young kid who's starting hockey is going to make it to that level, most certainly. But the idea, the promise, the excitement of learning the game, appreciating the sport of hockey, that needs to continue happening in Arizona. Because obviously it's done well before, and just because the NHL team went through business issues and business struggles doesn't mean the excitement among young people should go away. So they really need to foster that. You get to keep all the Coyotes youth programs intact. You get to use that name. You kind of get to keep that branding. That's why it's so important to keep the name Coyotes in the Desert, not just for the future fan base, but also for youth hockey. So please make sure down in Arizona that youth hockey not only continues, but it also starts to thrive even more. The Tucson Roadrunners are another conversation. This is the AHL affiliate of the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Coyotes, former owner, essentially, Alex Meruelo, he will still maintain ownership of the AHL team. This is per Craig Morgan of PHNX Sports, which is interesting, right? It presents a bunch of different dilemmas and facts here because this is still the feeder of now the NHL team, which is moving to Salt Lake City. More on that in just a second. If you're not familiar with Arizona or the geography, Tucson's about 110 miles or about a 2-hour drive, let's say, southeast of the Phoenix metro area. So it's not exactly right around the corner. This is not an easy thing to have a team go back and forth. But there was some discussion of moving this team, moving the Tucson AHL team more into the Phoenix area, into Mullet Arena, basically to take over what the Coyotes are vacating right now and that whole situation. And I I do understand the idea here. You're trying to keep that Phoenix area market alive. You're trying to give them some type of product. You're trying to give them something to watch and root for and pull for. And maybe there's also the possibility of splitting time. Again, I really am not in favor of seeing this domino effect here, that because, let's say, Phoenix lost a team, that now Tucson has to lose even an AHL team. You hate to see that kind of trickle all downhill, so to speak, but maybe there's a possibility of splitting time. And again, the Roadrunners are not that far away from Phoenix. It would probably be a little less convenient to have two homes or play some games over at Mullet, but that's an idea of how to keep this Arizona and this Phoenix fan base a little bit engaged here. But it's also, I mean, think about this. What a weird dynamic. We're talking about this Roadrunners team that is the top affiliate of what is about to be the Utah NHL team. And if there's any animosity in the fan base of like, wait, we're feeding those guys? It was different when the Tucson team was feeding the Phoenix team. That's neighbors. That makes sense. That was fully agreeable from the start. Not a big deal. That's how it works. But now the Phoenix team, let's call the Tucson team that, the Phoenix team is going to be feeding all its best talent to the Salt Lake team. There's always going to be that interesting chemistry. And, before I said I hope that this area doesn't lose both its teams, like the AHL team didn't go up to Utah and some other market, but eventually, like down the road, maybe that's what's best here because you have that weird connection to your former NHL team. So, yeah, it's a weird dynamic, but certainly for now, I'm glad the Roadrunners exist. I hope they use that franchise in an optimal fashion. Are there other ways to keep the spirit of this fan base alive? Are there fan events that they can do? Are there watch parties they can do? Can Phoenix host an NHL draft one of these summers? I know they don't have a team. I get it. They're hoping for expansion down the road. But can they be engaged by the NHL? Is the NHL willing to still kind of stay active in this market? Or are they going to shun them and turn their back on them and say, well, we're not promising anything. You need to show us your work before we open the doors back up to you. How's that going to go? Now, the Coyotes, they can, I suppose, keep making merchandise. The Meruelo family owns the name and the image and the likeness of the Coyotes brand. So at least they don't have to pull all the Coyotes stuff off the shelves. People can still kind of wear it proudly, like Arizona gets to continue owning that brand, owning that name. And like I said before, it's important that youth programs still carry that name. They carry something moving forward. So you can kind of keep the spirit alive by maybe making new merchandise, right? Something that bands and brands the fans, ooh, that rhymed, together. Maybe even stay active on social. Now, I realize social media has not been a strong point of the Arizona NHL team. And maybe when the team moves, that current account follows with them, but maybe a new account, maybe to stay active, like I said, on social media, here on YouTube. This fan base can stick together. Weirdly enough, even though they don't have a team, they can still stick together. And I think all of this kind of prepares a foundation for a hopeful return. Like I said before, it's not a guaranteed return. We'll talk about that last here. But you have to do all the right things so that it's even a possibility. If you do none of this stuff, you're not exactly setting yourself up for success and even having a chance. Work has to be done on the new arena and the project and the site. And I realize here right in the middle of all this, I don't know why I'm telling you this as a fan. If you're down there in Arizona, this is kind of out of your control. This is up to the Meruelo family to buy the land, to make sure that the promise that they're getting from the league actually is secured. The only way to bring a franchise back, it sounds like, is with a new venue. Now, this could be a complicated venue. It could be that $3 to $4 billion project with 400,000 square feet of commercial and like almost 2,000 residential units. Or it can just be a nice, brand new, shiny arena first, and then build out everything else in the 2 decades following it. You need a home. You need a home for the Arizona Coyotes more than you need anything else right now if you're the Meruelo family. And the Coyotes apparently are still in, as I record this video right now, they're still in on trying to win that land auction on June 27th. That's going to be pivotal. If that doesn't happen, I'll tell you right now, it's not the end again, and there still is time, apparently, if there really is this 5-year window to secure a new site, get those wheels in motion. This is not the end, but now you're at square one all over again for what, like the 3rd or 4th time in trying to find a new home. So June 27th, still a very pivotal day for the future and the possibilities of future for this franchise. But again, all of that just seems out of the fans' control. There's nothing to vote on. There's nothing to get behind or do. I mean, this is literally, can private entities take care of business for you, the fans? And the Meruelo group and the family, they've got a lot of pressure now to actually get this done because they also want to reap the benefits, you'd think, of owning a franchise again. But the only way to do that is to spend and to secure things so that you can get the value out of owning a franchise again. And it's also an interesting dynamic, right? For the league to promise this back to the Meruelos when in reality, what Alex has owned the team, I think, for 5 years now, and it just hasn't been a great 5 years of development. So it's kind of like, well, everybody try this all over again. We'll give you a chance. Same people do the same things. I don't know if that's in everybody's best case scenario. But there is a lot of pressure on that family to get things done. And I also want to point this out too, the promise of the whole 5-year window thing. I mean, I don't remember exactly how it played out for people in Winnipeg and what they were told about the Jets ever coming back. I don't remember specifics on that. But I do know, looking back, they went without a team and they eventually got one back, but it was from 1996 to 2011 when Winnipeg didn't have a team. And it took another franchise kind of failing again in Atlanta for the Thrashers to come back up to Winnipeg. So understand that although things are talked about and discussed here and they're laid out for you, nothing apparently appears like a promise at this point. But those things I mentioned in this video are things I hope for Phoenix, I hope for Arizona. I hope they can do some of those things, like I said, to stay active, even though their franchise is essentially going dormant. You made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll help me, this video, this channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so I can definitely see you back here next time.